game information session. My name is Mary Metzler. I'm the Director of Student Programs. With me today is Dr. Alan Cox, a coordinator of the stock market game and our stock market game official guru. And with me also is Nicolette Coffey, who is the outreach coordinator. We always like to remind our visitors to sign up for our website so that you can stay up to date on opportunities that we have available for both teachers and students. Before we get into the details about the stock market game, we want to share with you some successes. Each year we hold an award ceremony to recognize the accomplishments of the teams with the highest performing portfolios. So Dr. Alan Cox is going to tell us about the goals of the stock market game.
Well, in a nutshell, what we try to do with the stock market game is teach kids about saving and investing for life. And it's an interactive opportunity for them to do that. And along the way, we're hoping that they're going to follow the news, because the news is going to lead them to opportunities for investment opportunities. And we also, at the same time, hope that the stock market game will reinforce math skills, reading and writing skills. And obviously, since it's interactive, we hope they're going to have a lot of fun learning about saving and investing at the same time. So what we're going to do it with this presentation, hopefully for you, we're going to go over why you'd want to play the stock market game, how to get started, show you the rules, let you in on all the Teacher Support Center opportunities that we have for teachers, including lessons and other kinds of resources that you're going to use as you do this with your kids. Make some suggestions about classroom management and highlight the need for research. And then finally, going to answer all your questions, we hope, along the way.
So you may be wondering, what is the stock market game? In a nutshell, it's an online simulation of the global capital markets. It's for your students in grades 4 through 12. And while you're playing, they'll be also learning economics, investing, and personal finance. Students begin with an initial investment of 100,000 virtual dollars. And they can play for either 10 weeks or 32 weeks in the fall or spring game or the year long. Who provides the stock market game program? Well, SIFMA Foundation is the organization that puts on the stock market game, and there are some additional opportunities within that organization. Why should my students play the game? Well, there are so many reasons. First of all, as teachers in Maryland systems, you're very concerned about preparing your students for the future. And playing the game does align with the Maryland College and Career Ready standards. And the students are going to use real world context. They're going to research companies, interpret the texts, analyze data, and problem solve. In addition, the soft skills, which are often the meat of what we're trying to do, are a big part of the stock market game experience. Your students will be collaborating with one another and working as a team. They'll be building their communication skills, learning to think more critically, being extremely creative, and learning how to build consensus and compromise as they make their decisions. How do you get started? It's not too difficult. You can go straight to the stockmarketgame.org and click the blue register button. After just a few minutes of answering some questions about where you teach and how many teams, you will be registered. You can also reach the registration opportunity through our website on the stock market game page. So once you have registered, within about 24 hours, you will receive an email. In that email, you will have a teacher advisor username and password. And then about 2 weeks before the game begins, you will get an email with all of your team passwords and usernames. So is there a fee to play the game? At Maryland Council on Economic Education, we pride ourselves in offering high quality resources and programs with little to no cost. The fees are small. You can see to play the spring or fall session, it's just $15 per team. The year long is double that. The enrichment session, which is later in the spring, is a little bit less. It's a non-competitive opportunity. We never want cost to be the reason your students can't play the stock market game. And we do have some grants and sponsorships. So if that's an issue, please contact us and let us see how we can help. There are many generous sponsors, and you can see on this page, if your county, school, or a team is having the cost offset, it would be a thank you to one of these companies. So what are the game dates? This year in 2022 and 2023, we have the year-long competition that began September 12th and will run through April 21st. The fall competition begins on October 10th. Spring, February 13th is the start date. The end of the year game, which is that $10 per team game, starts in April. And in the summertime, there will be a game as well. And that date will be announced later this spring. Here's a great question you may be wondering. Are there lesson plans and resources available? We wouldn't want you to play if the answer was no. The answer is a emphatic yes. The Teacher Support Center within the Stock Market Game website has many resources. Today, it looks like this slide, but it's ever changing and may be updated sometime during this year. Nonetheless, all the resources will be within. For example, you can find your IDs and passwords for all of the teams. There's tools for the teachers and students. You can always find the program rules, the key and core units and lessons. Students can see their rankings as well as teachers, and more information about InvestRight. So tools for the teachers and students. This is a little nutshell. You'll see the video tutorials, which are 3 to 6 minute videos available for teachers and students, where you can access well done videos that help to introduce topics. Teachers can find some pacing calendars, and there are some valuable handouts within. So there are 5 basic units with 10 core lessons that you will cover during the stock market game experience. You can find each lesson and have it, I'm going to say, personalized to the grade level that you're teaching. We have an example of one of the lessons here. See, understanding the stock market game. The lesson plans are very rich and full. So if you're doing this for the first time, it's okay. There will be a detailed teacher background, vocabulary and objectives, all the handouts you need, even ideas for the springboard activity with all the procedures laid out clearly, the application, and even assessment. New this year is the essential stock market game syllabus, which we are excited to share with teachers that will make it even easier to implement in your classroom. Additionally, the essentials like the pacing calendars, the videos, some handouts, and especially I'll draw your eye to the bottom of the screen. Those guides are very valuable. They're multiple pages with lots of ideas, and I highly recommend that you choose the appropriate one for your stock market game experience, download it, and use it faithfully. Okay, so team portfolios. Your teams are going to have a portfolio, and it will have the history of what's been going on in their stock market game portfolio. Students can see a nickname, they can see where they're ranked among the region that they're playing, and much more. Assessments and standards are important to us as educators, and you can search the Teacher Support Center and find post-tests, pre-tests. You can find rubrics to help you grade if you would like them pre-made, and even you can search by standard to find additional activities. And I think we began with a question, are there lesson plans available? While there are 5 core units and 10 core lessons, in the additional curricular area, you can find 90 different lessons. So your students will have the opportunity to learn, no matter whether it's their first time or their third time through the stock market game, and you can really personalize and extend, especially during the year-long competition.
All right, I'll take care of the rules of the game for everybody. They're fairly simple. As Nicolette mentioned, each team is going to start with $100,000 in virtual cash. And of course, the object of the game is to make that $100,000 grow as much as the kids can by following the events of the day. They can invest in common stocks, they can invest in bonds, they can invest in mutual funds, and even exchange traded funds. Now, the minimum transaction is 10 shares. So when they're buying stock, they have to buy at least 10 shares. Now, that rule does not apply to selling. They can sell fewer than 10 shares. And the minimum of 5 trades is one of our requirements to be eligible for awards at the end of the year. If they're doing the fall competition, they have to make at least 5 trades during the fall. If they're doing the spring competition, at least 5 trades in the spring. And if they're playing the year-long game, they have to do at least 5 trades in each semester. Okay. Now, in the real world, when they're buying stock, that stock has to sell for at least $3 per share. All right. And that keeps kids away from so-called penny stocks. The problem with penny stocks is once they're very cheap to buy, but the news about those companies can be very limited. And sometimes those companies will appear and then maybe they'll just disappear. So minimum of $3 per share in the real world when buying. Transactions have to be whole numbers. There's no half shares available. And there's a $5 broker fee for every transaction. Now we use real time. The stock market opens at 9:30 in the morning in New York and closes at 4 p.m. And if the students are doing a transaction while the market is open between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m., they're going to get the real-time price for that transaction. They can do trades after hours. So if a trade is made after 4 p.m., they're going to get the next day's opening price when the markets are open. And that applies also to weekends and holidays. There is a pretty attractive interest rate if they keep cash in their portfolio. They're going to get 0.75% in interest. And the nice thing about the interest is it does accumulate during the session that the stock market game is being played. But you don't want kids just to hold cash for 10 weeks or longer because they're really not learning anything by doing that. And there's also a diversification rule. They can't have more than 20% of their portfolio in any single stock or any single mutual fund. And that keeps kids somewhat diversified. So here's what a student portfolio page looks like. And when they put in their username and password, this is what they're going to see first. So notice they have information about their account summary. They can look at their team rankings. If there are any messages that we want to send out, they can find that in the bottom right-hand corner. And up at the top where you have home, portfolio, trade, resources, and log out, there's additional resources for the kids. For example, under the resources page, there are 10 videos that they can access. They're short, and there are things like how to make a transaction, how to research companies, what are the rules of the game. So this is all available to them on their main portfolio page. When they're doing a transaction, they'll click on trade. It's a drop down. And notice they can enter a stock trade, a mutual fund trade, or a bond trade. Here's a sample of a pending order. In this case, the Transaction was to buy shares, 100 shares. The ticker symbol, we'll talk about that in a minute, is HSY, which happens to be Hershey Candy Company. They're going to buy at market, and those are the dates that the trade was entered and a confirmation was issued. In transaction notes, they can see what they bought, when they bought it, and the executed price that was made. Under transaction history, they can see all of the transactions that they've made, when they made them, and the price that they got for those trades. And even graphically, an account holdings chart. Now, another thing they can find under the research page is something having to do with sustainable investing. Today, more and more investors are not only looking for profitability, which is still the number one reason to invest, they're also looking to invest in companies that they feel are doing good things for not only themselves as investors, but also for the country and the world at whole. So under the New Day Sustainable Stock listing, there are companies listed here that New Day, which is a financial services information company, has deemed are sustainable. So what's sustainable? Well, sustainable has to do with companies that are trying to protect the environment, companies that are treating their workers well, and are good corporate citizens in the areas where they operate. Also, these are companies that New Day feels has done a good job of including women and minorities on their boards of directors, for example, or playing by the rules and governing their companies with integrity. They're an alphabetical list, and there are hundreds of them, and there are companies that the kids will recognize. Okay.
So a question that we frequently receive is, what should I do before the game begins? Well, the first question you want to ask your students is, what is the difference between savings? That means putting your money under a mattress, and investing and putting your money to work for you. Then you want to explain to students how they make the money in the stock market game. There's basically three ways: buy low, sell high. We also call that a long position. Accumulate dividends by holding onto the stock. Just as a reminder, we always suggest that students check to see when dividends are going to be paid and make sure it's within the time frame of the game. And finally, they can earn the interest income that we talked about previously. You also want to explain to the students what is a company. That is a corporation that sells stock to raise money. And there's a lesson for that. It's called What is a Company? You want to explain the purpose of ticker symbols, and there's a lesson for that about ticker symbols. So they want to be able to teach your students how to identify the ticker symbols. And then lastly, you need to explain the concept of volatility, that the market goes down based upon the forces of supply and demand and current events. There is a lesson also to talk about diversification. That means not putting all your eggs in one basket, and determining what type of risk are you willing to take. Now,
So you may be wondering,
is going to be talking a little bit about classroom management.
You may be wondering if we have any tips for you. Well, a tip that we have found, we want to make sure every advisor knows, is that you should stress to the students that they are not allowed to act as individuals when they are part of a team. So no transaction should be made without the team's permission. Additionally, since this is a competition, we encourage you to stress the importance of keeping the team ID and password secret from anybody who's on a different team. I mentioned earlier that there are so many valuable pieces for you as you go to prepare yourself to lead the students through this. The teacher guide is one of those things that is highly advisable that you use. On the side of the screen here, you see a snapshot of the table of contents, and you can see that it is rich and full of many valuable resources to lead you and guide you as you take the students through this experience. A few other classroom management ideas, especially for either our novice advisors or perhaps the younger students. You may need to set a limit on how many companies a team can have in their portfolio. That also may be minimum. You know, you're trying to teach them and emphasize this need for diversity and diversification, and you may need to stress that. Additionally, insisting on a basic number of companies that have been researched before a purchase is made. So you may want to tell students, for instance, before we meet on Friday next week, I want you to come ready with your student journal with at least 4 companies that you've researched to bring to the table for discussion. There are many more ideas, and we encourage you to go to econed.org. That's our website for more ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about researching companies and stocks and how to get started with doing that. Well, the heart and soul of the stock market game really is all about research. Wouldn't it be great if your kids start and your students start paying attention to the news, for example? That is going to lead them to investment opportunities. For example, for the 2022-23 school year, there's going to be a lot of, I think, investing opportunities having to do with electric vehicles, charging stations, because that was all part of the new Inflation Reduction Act. Wouldn't it be nice if your kids were paying attention to things like that? Also, I've mentioned already the environment. There's lots and lots of opportunities to look at companies that are trying to protect the environment. There's lots of opportunities for kids to take a look at research having to do with the results of the upcoming election, for example. Is that going to change things? If the kids are paying attention to the news, that's going to lead them to investment opportunities. And it's also helpful for you as the advisor not to suggest specific companies for the kids to invest in. Let them do the research. Let them do the critical thinking. Let them pay attention to what's going on and come up with the investing opportunities on their own. And I think justifying their investment picks is the way to grade this if you're going to grade it. Don't grade them on whether they made money or lost money. That just could be a timing issue. But grade them on the critical thinking that went into each decision that the team made. I think that's a great way to do it. And we also recommend that you, as Nicolette said, keep a journal. Have the kids keep a journal. Here's what we bought. Here's an example of one. Here's what we bought. Here's the name of the company. Here's the ticker symbol. Here's the industry that that company's in. What does that company do? Who are their competitors? How about analysts? Are the analysts following this company? What are they saying about this company? Those are great things for kids to keep track of in their investment portfolio. Some teachers like to use a purchase ticket. Here's an example of that. That kids keep a record of with the base, what was the cost? The $5 commission in it, here's the total cost. How many shares did we buy? Here's the price per share. So this kind of easy math is a good way for the kids to keep track of what they're doing. This is also available to them in their portfolio page. Another example of just keeping track of what's going on. Now, some useful websites that we're going to encourage you to take a look at. On their stock market portfolio page, we mentioned short videos. One of those short videos is how to do research. And the website they use for that is Yahoo Finance. It's a good website for kids, easy for kids to keep track. It's really a good place for them to start because after all, they have to look up the ticker symbol first. So if they go to yahoo.com/finance, they can look up the ticker symbol and get lots of research information at the same time. We have teachers that like CNBC, MarketWatch. Wikipedia is good if the kids, let's say they like Doritos and want to find out who makes Doritos. Well, if they go to Wikipedia and type in Doritos, what'll pop up is the parent company, which happens to be Pepsi. Pepsi makes Doritos. As a matter of fact, Pepsi makes more money on snack foods than they do soft drinks. All right. Fool.com, the Gardner brothers have a wonderful website for kids. ICI, if you want to do some research on mutual funds. All right. And those of you out there that are watching this and want to get a good shot at all kinds of graphs and charts and statistical information about what's going on, finviz.com is great for statistics.
So as we wrap up this presentation, we're going to answer one more question. Are there enrichment opportunities available? And the answer is yes. For any advisor who is participating in the stock market game, you will receive some information about the Invest Right competition. And it's an essay writing competition that has open-ended question for the students to answer. Or they'll have an opportunity to do some research on stocks that they would invest in based upon the prompt that's provided. There is an opportunity for Invest Right in both the fall and the spring. Also, we do have tours available of the T. Rowe Price Investment Center at Towson, and you can, and coming soon, we are looking forward to having some tours at Salisbury. So information can be obtained by contacting our office. Thank you for your time. We hope to see you at the awards ceremony. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you very much.